Yes, yes, it is Tuesday. And you know what happens on Tuesday? We have As Saul Sees It. Today, my guest is one half of the Business Brroooo. I got Mr. Hernan Sias. Thank you, Hernan, for being on this. And I'm not going to call you Hernan like you were earlier called. It's Hernan.
Hernan.
Hernan Sias. I got Hernan Sias here today. Thank you, Hernan, for being on the show today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Sal. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Let's get this going. So let's start off. Okay. You literally just finished your podcast like 20 minutes ago. You jump on this one. So I do appreciate that. Tell us a little bit, because I know you from, business relationships, and for a couple of years we worked on some things together, and you helped me. We'll talk about all those different things, but tell the listeners that are going to be listening to this on Spotify, YouTube, down the line, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, man. So most notably now is the podcast. So I host the Business Brroooo. We do a show Monday through Friday. We interview entrepreneurs, get to hear their story. I mean, the thought process is simple. Like, we want to interview people that don't normally get the shot, right? Yeah, we'll interview the big people too, but what about all the little guys? Like, nobody gets to give them an opportunity. How are you supposed to know who they are, connect with them? And that's what our platform allows us to do. It allows us to talk to different people. And a little bit of background for me, I have my degree in accounting. I have a tax practice. I own an agency with my brother, an insurance agency with my brother, and then I sell real estate, dude. So I got a lot of different things in that space, and it all came from meeting James Russ, but way back in the day. So I was teaching tax school for H&R Block, left H&R Block, started my own practice. Mike Russ Schools was looking for a place looking to hire a tax teacher. So I went in, started teaching taxes, and the rule at that school is as long as you work for the school, you can take any class in there. So I got my real estate license and I got my insurance license, because I learned early on, I was like, look, I don't actually have to do all that work. But if I maintain a professional license, when I refer business out, I get paid. And so for the longest time, that's been what I was doing, is I just build relationships. And, if something comes up, I'm like, hey, Sal, I need help with this person. Boom. And then, send them that way. Hey, whoever is another real estate agent, I would send it that way. And, the check is not as big, but the workload is really small.
It's still a check, though.
It's still a check, dude. A check is a check. And when it comes in the mail, I'm not going to knock it down. I've gotten a check from those class action lawsuits, and it was like 39 cents. I still deposited the 39 cents, dude. It didn't matter how small that check is.
I will tell you a funny story on this, okay? So we get renewals. In life insurance, we get renewals, right? Sometimes they're big renewals. Sometimes they're small renewals. I get renewals from a carrier, Transamerica, okay, for like 7 cents. It actually costs them more money to send me the damn stamped envelope, the person who actually, puts it through the system. But the funny thing is, they actually deposit renewals to my account on other policies. But for these particular ones, they don't. They actually mail me hard checks. And I'm like, can you just add it to the other total? So you don't have to, nope. It has to be accounting. I'm like, all right, whatever,
It's not cost effective.
No, it's not. I'm like,
cost anything.
I was like, and then I, after, a couple of years later, I'm like, no wonder you guys were, had to sell the Transamerica building 2 years ago, right? Because you were spending all this money sending me these $7 checks. Couldn't afford that anymore.
Inefficiencies, man. Inefficiencies.
Yeah, exactly. So, as you mentioned it, we met each other through the Mike Russ Schools. It was a great experience. I did not take advantage of the classes because I'm just swamped with everything, right? So with everything you do, the real estate, you're also, you've got to mention, you're a teacher, so you're out there empowering these youth, right, to try to do better with their lives and everything else. With all the things you have going on, right? You have all these streams of income, all these different things you're doing. How did this podcast come about? Like, because that must be an interesting story, because just with everything you got going on, how did you just like, I'm gonna do a podcast now?
Yeah. So 3 years ago, July of 2018, I was in the process of getting certified as a real estate coach. And my mentor has a daily podcast, Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. And they get like 100,000 downloads every month. So, I'm talking to them, and they're like, how are you going to grow? How are you going to get out there and tell people what it is you do? And they recommended that I should start a podcast. And I was like, I don't know about that. Like, it's kind of weird turning on the mic and, doing that whole thing. He's like, dude, trust me, you'll meet so many new people. Around the same time, I got introduced to Gary Vee's content, and Gary Vee is saying the same thing. He's like, dude, if you're in business, you have to be a media company first, everything else second, right? Because the relationships are in the media, in building that media, that exposure. So, all right, fine. I went on Amazon and I looked, and I was like, okay, I need I'm gonna do interviews. So I'll get 4 mics, and they had like this whole bundle thing. And I ordered it. It came in. And James owed me a favor because in our first business, he kind of bounced on me. So he owed me a favor, and I was like, hey, bro, look, we're going to do this podcast thing. And he's like, oh, all right. And I was like, and we're going to do it every single day. And he's like, what? And I go, and we're going to do it for at least 3 years. And he's like, the hell, dude? But like anything else, I know that if I'm going to do something, I got to commit to it long term, because I'm not going to figure it out in week 1. I'm not going to figure it out in week 2. This is something that you have to do going forward. And so, we started doing a few episodes here and there, and they suck, dude. Like, if you ever go back to episode 1, like it's like anything else. The first time you go to the gym, you think you're good, but you're not at all, right? So we started doing episodes, and then around episode 60 or so, my son, Liam, he was 8 years old at the time. He goes, hey, Dad, if you want people to listen to your show, you should probably get influencers on there. And I was like, I was impressed, first of all, with what he was saying. Second, I was like, I do need to start reaching out. So we started doing a couple interviews here and there. And before you knew it, I started talking to a lot of real estate agents, started getting invited to, Christmas parties for different companies. And, it just started to blow up from there. And after that, it was like, well, I get to meet somebody new every day. They may or may not have insurable interest, but it's starting to do a good thing. And then I started to do something that was something I had done before, but never really seen the extent. After we were about 100, 150 episodes, when I set up an episode for somebody, I'm always Googling who they are and all that stuff. And one day I Googled my name, and I was like, I haven't Googled myself in a while. And all of a sudden the results were crazy on Google. Like I owned like the first 2 or 3 pages. I was like, oh, like I understood the long tail effect of creating content. And I realized, okay, so I got a show. Now when I would Google people who would come on for a second time, for example, and I'd Google their name again, like my stuff started to pop up on as their stuff, because they don't have a lot of content. And so I realized that the power of being able to come out on Google was so important. And I was like, okay, well, how much content can I put out on a regular basis? So I would take these podcast episodes, and now we break them up into small pieces. I tag people on all these different social media platforms. And now that's my sales pitch, Saul. Now it's like, like I had a listing that I just got last week, and it's now in escrow officially today. But I was in competition with another agent. And when I sat down with the seller, I was like, look, it's really, really simple. I don't know who that agent is, but do me a favor, open your phone and Google their name, and then go in and Google my name. And if you want an agent that has more exposure, then you be the judge. And by now it's like, dude, Google has me like the first 6 pages. So there's no denying anything. It's like free marketing, free branding. Like I'm on the internet talking in my own voice, giving you the excitement that I have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It just lives there. So that to me, that's been the power and the journey of podcasting.
Now, let's be honest, there's not that many Hernan Sias out there. So, of course, you'd probably be, the first page, I hope, right? And then the rest of them.
At least.
It's like Saul, right? Like the same thing with me, Saul Berjano Jr. I'm hoping that in a couple of months, I'll be there, the first 5 or 6 pages as well. So, hey, let's talk about this, right? You said it, you started out, you said, I'm going to commit to 3 years of this. And for everyone that's out there, just so everyone is clear, the reason I have my podcast as everything, my name today is The Mentor, right? We always have to have a mentor in something that we're not good at, right? That's the one thing I've learned, right? I'm not good at certain things. I got to find a mentor and get some guidance. Hernan's the one that said, do your podcast. He's the one that put me on StreamYard. He's the one that said, do these things, because I had a voice that I wanted to share with people, and he's the reason. So if you don't like my podcast, go to 6 pages and write bad comments. I don't know. No, don't do that. I'm just like, so with this COVID, you started with a podcast, over 600 episodes done. And last time I checked, it was like 680, wasn't it? You almost close to like 700.
Yeah, almost like that. Closing on 700.
Even closing on 700, right? You committed 3 years to it. How is your marketing evolving now compared to, what you would started off, right? You start off as, I'm just going to do it, and I suck at this at first, right? And we all suck, like you said, we all suck at everything that we start off with. When I started insurance, I was not very good at it. I was a people person, but we got better at it. So what's one thing that a couple of things that changed with your podcast that you've seen evolve for your personal self?
Yeah, for me, it's always value, right? I've learned in my career that my strength is being able to bring value to people. I'm very much, a committed type of person. So, for example, the wife the other day, she's like, what would you really like, done like in business? I'm like, honestly, I think I like it when people, when I have somebody that I really look up to and they tell me to do something, I'm really good at getting that thing done, right? And I don't know how well I am at overall leadership, but I'm really good at leading from within. So maybe not at the top seat, but maybe, one or two levels down. And it's because of all the value that I like to give. I like to give away so many different things for free because I just can. Right. And that has been what has really changed my marketing is I give a lot away. Every episode we do, we have paid versions. So you can come and jump the line because our show books out 8 weeks in advance. So you can jump the line and pay for a premium episode, or, we have where you can buy bulk, like 5 episodes, and we'll do different types of marketing. I take content clips and when I have somebody that I really want to work with, I take the episode that we did and I chop it up and I send them a bunch of stuff. I'm like, here's some extra stuff to market your stuff. It's another way for me to bring value to people. And I feel like I've just been making deposit after deposit after deposit in that value bank. And I'm hoping it's to the point where if I ever need anything, I need to reach out to somebody, like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, definitely I'll help you out because I've given so much. And it's funny because we tend to measure a lot of things in dollars, right? And how much revenue is coming in. And it's important to measure those things. But there's that other people capital that's also important, right? One of my favorite Christmas movies is It's a Wonderful Life. And at the end of the movie, George Bailey's in trouble. Like he needs help. There's a mistake and he's responsible. He could be going to jail. And the word gets out and the entire community comes to help. Right? Everybody comes to help to solve that problem. And that is really what I want to be able to leave behind because you can't take the money with you. You enjoy the money right here, right now while you have it, but you can't take it with you. And I'm hoping that the impact that I leave behind is something that really helps out. And so for me, that marketing plan is how can I leave more of an impact every day? How can I tell somebody's story? How can I share what they're doing? How can I help bring value to them so that going forward, the leads now, they just come. Like I don't really do very much because somebody's like, oh yeah, I know somebody, boom. And they just send it my way. And I'm able to be that filter that it really makes a difference in people's lives because I've continuously deposit and deposit and deposit. I don't make very many withdrawals. And I think that makes a huge difference in my marketing going forward. And it's fun. I mean, dude, I get to sit behind a mic and talk to somebody like you every day. And sometimes multiple times a day if I get on their shows or I go on other shows. Like, come on, like, what do you really want to be? I could be outside, like working on a roof and burning my ass off on, doing all those things. But it's not my cup of tea. And I'm not knocking anybody who does that. It's just I found a way to connect with people and it works. It works when you have that connection with other people.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Well, and the other thing, just not just a podcast, you've started your marketing branding company. For all of you that see my As Saul Sees It logo, my TGI Viernes logo, that's from Hernan. He had a couple ideas and he kind of went with it and made those logos. Now we have face masks, we have socks, we have, all these crazy things that are coming out of that branding. Just that simple
little
thing.
Your sock game is on point, by the way. Your sock game is on point.
That's the one thing I do enjoy, my sock game. I'm not going to lie to you right now. I probably have about at least 20 to 30 pairs of socks that I have still the tags on, not even pop the collar on them to wear them out. Like that's how it is. So it's crazy. So the question I have for you now, let's switch to, you've interviewed over close to 700 people on your podcast. What's the one thing that you've noticed out of all these things that you see a motivated individual? Like, what's that one characteristic you're like, this person's got it? Because not everyone has it. Like you said earlier, right? We could be doing on the roof, right? And my old business partner used to say, the world needs ditch diggers. Nothing against a ditch digger, right? But not everyone's meant to be a ditch digger. I know I'm not, right? I wear suits and a tie to work. I know you're not. You're teaching and you're motivating. You're podcasting, right? But so what's that one thing that you say, this is a characteristic from all these people that I've interviewed, this is the one thing that just stands out the most?
Yeah, I can actually think of two, but the first one is focus. Like I have this downside to me that's also an upside, right? My real estate license, my insurance license, the tax license, the teaching credential, like all these things, yeah, they're in the same space and they allow me to talk about different things, but none of those one individual businesses has ever been like, boom, blown out of the market, right? It's not a, $10 million in revenue type business. And that's because I lack that specific focus. And I notice when I interview people that have made it, they haven't even made it at like super amazing things. I had a guy on the podcast just the other day. He did $10 million in revenue.
The lawnmower guy, right?
Lawns.
No, I saw that. I still have to go back and look at that because I saw the title and it says 10 million in revenue mowing lawns. I'm like, Damn.
Mowing lawns, dude. But that's the thing is he had this one idea where I'm going to be the best at this one thing. And every single focus that he put his effort in was building this one thing. And that's what I noticed with a lot of different people, is that if they are focused on one thing, they become successful. They're not the smartest. They're not the hardest working. They just progressively use the time that they have to work on that one thing, and it gets them to that level of success you never even thought possible. And I think it's just, most of the time it's solving little things. They're little micro changes that happen in your day to day that you adjust, and they just propel you forward. Things like, I wake up at 4:20 every morning, and I'm on a 5 a.m. call every morning, and I do my 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups every morning, and I go for my 3.8 mile run. Like, this is a standard that I set for myself. It's my minimum requirement. That's why I don't get overweight, because I have a standard that I set for myself, that this is what I'm going to do to progressively get to where I want to go. So if you maintain that same standard, but you apply it to one specific thing in your business, like what is the one thing that your business needs to do, then all of a sudden you become super successful. And those are the companies that get bought out for millions of dollars, because they have systems in place that they've built from just working on this one thing. And it's rare that I see somebody that's super amazing that has like a plethora of things. It's always one. It's always one. And then, like, I'll give you the second example. So the guy ends up selling his lawn care company for, the $10 million in revenue. Then he goes and builds an app, which is basically an Uber for lawnmowers. So if you want to be in landscaping and you're for realtors, for example, right? Oh shit, my house is all destroyed. I need to get this place listed.
Someone's seeing it this weekend. I need that lawn cut.
Yeah, put it on the app, and then you hire somebody, they come, and it's done. It's paid through the app. Like, it's still the one thing. He's still focusing on the lawn care, and he just did it in a different way. So, focus, like, follow one course until successful. That's focus. FOCUS, right? That's follow one course until successful.
Now you guys know that Hernan is not an English teacher. He's a math teacher.
Teach math, man. I deal with X, Y, and Z. That's about it. All these other letters.
They don't make sense. They don't make sense. Yeah.
Lost.
And it's crazy, because like when I started, just as an example, when I started in this industry, the real estate market was booming. My dad was like, go do real estate. Go, you can make a ton of money. You're very personable, this and that. I was like, Dad, I'm going to focus on my craft, my trade. And I've done that ever since. I never changed my path. And it's been one of those things, right? That I wake up just like you. I wake up at 4:30 every 4 o'clock every morning. I'm on my bike by 4:30, doing my 8, 10, 12 miles on Sunday. My rear end still hurts, because Sunday I did 50 miles. I did Rosarito to Ensenada in 2 hours and 40 minutes. But this is the thing that I've seen on my end, not just me in general, but the people that are the most successful or motivated are the people that just motivate themselves, right? Because who the hell sits on a bike for 2 hours and 40 minutes and be like, I'm just going to listen to music. I'm just gonna do this today. You're like, no, people don't do that.
But it's your peaceful spot, right? I don't, like, for me, when I'm running, like right now, it's like I don't even want to listen to music. I feel like I'm wasting my time if I'm listening to music. And don't get me wrong, Friday after 5 o'clock comes on Friday, and then I have to take my daughter to practice, dude, I'm bumping some music on the car. It's like the end of the week, I'm having fun. But during the week, that's where I'm also developing my mind. I'm listening to a book. I'm listening to like a YouTube video, like maybe motivational stuff. Like, I'm listening to anything that will make me better for that day. Like, that's going to get me to that next level. And again, it's just focusing on that one thing. What is it that's going to make you better? Why is it that I can hold a conversation with almost anybody who sits down in front of me on the podcast? Because I choose to educate myself on the area that we're going to talk about. Like, I don't have any qualms or fears about sitting down and talking to a guy that sold his company for 100 million, or the guy that's just getting started and last week filed his DBA. Like, it doesn't matter, because I can speak the language all the way across. I'm confident with what I know. And I think that shows in the episodes that I put out, but as well as the confidence that you have when you're out there talking to other people. Right? When I sit down with a buyer or seller, when I sit down with a potential podcast guest, there's a confidence that comes from me, because I know what I'm talking about, because I've taken that time to do that. And for me, that running time or that bike time, that's perfect, dude. My blood's pumping. I'm already, in that mindset of keep moving forward, keep going forward. Might as well enrich your mind.
That's yeah, not for me. I have to be listening to my 90s hip hop or I just gotta listen to something or some reggaeton because it gets hard. But the one thing I will tell you this is there are times where I'm listening to music, but my brain is thinking about what I have to accomplish during that day, what I have to do, how I have to empower and motivate my agents. Because as you well know, I mean, my agency has over 6,500 agents licensed throughout the whole United States. And so there's always something that's gonna come up, right? So I always try to that morning time, that's my me time. I get my pump on, like I work out like I'm in San Quentin, pumping those irons, doing those push-ups and do everything else. And then my day starts and I get going. So after all these things, right, we as individuals that are self-employed use motivation as a tool to get us from point A to point B, right? What are the three things that you have heard that are the motivating factors for people to be successful, right? Because we all have those things, right? When I was younger, it was money. It was always about, you're younger, you're a kid, you want money. But as you get older, those things change. You and I both know that. We have kids, we have families now. Things have changed. So what is those three things that you see that are the key things that people are using for motivation right now or in general?
I think it definitely depends on where you are in the entrepreneurial stage, and also parallel that with where you are in life. Because I agree with you. Talking to more and more people, they almost all get into it because they need to solve a money problem, right? Yeah. Some sort of problem shows up, whether it's a side hustle and you got to get yourself out of debt, or this is your main thing and it's what puts food on the table. So initially, that very first thing I think is money, and as I talk to more and more people, that's the very first thing. But then you realize, like you said, when you get a little bit older, you start to realize something else, that money, yeah, it can buy you some cool toys, but the only thing it can really, really buy you is time. And as you get older, you start to realize, and hopefully you mature in your business, where you're not the one doing everything all the time, because you only have 24 hours in a day. There's only that 8-hour window or 12-hour window that you're working. You don't want to sit there and be behind your desk for 12 hours. You want to all of a sudden be with your spouse, be with your kids, and enjoy that time that you're looking for. So
that quality time.
So once you solve the money problem, then you start working into the systems to give yourself that additional time. Right. And so that time is that next motivating factor. How am I going to get my 4 hours in my day? Right. You read the book like that 4-hour work week and you start thinking, oh, well, it's simple. It's I hire a VA, but it's not really all that simple, because now you got to learn how to manage people, and now you got to learn how to put the systems in place. And now telling somebody, hey, go ahead and create some content for me. Well, that's very vague. What they hear is going to be completely different than what you expect. So you got to start laying down those foundations and systems to get those things squared away. And then the last thing that motivates people, like once you hit those two stages, the last thing I noticed is giving back, right? What kind of philanthropy work do you want? Something, and this is where you realize, and this is the great Forrest Gump line, right? Where he says, mama says, there's only so much money a man needs. And then after that, or everything else is for showing off, right? Yeah. And I think that's where that next step happens for a lot of people is, how am I going to give back? Do I have a foundation? Am I going to go back to my, my hood where I came from and I'm donating to my high school, or am I, trying to build a league for somebody, or trying to build, a hospital in Haiti? Everybody has this philanthropic thing that they want to eventually give back. And I think those are the three things that motivate people, but at different times in their life. That's why it's kind of difficult to talk to a 17-year-old kid about donating to build a church in Mexico or something, because they just don't connect with that. What do they want right now? They want that independence. They want that money. But once they get there, what's the next step?
No, so you're right. We're all at different ages. Our mentality is the biggest issue when it comes to, what are we going to do with our money, our time, our efforts, everything else. I saw this thing the other day on Instagram on the Reels, videos, and they were saying, money, people go out there and flaunt that they have these crazy expensive cars and everything else. And like you said, you can't take it with you, right? So what's the point of flaunting it? I don't, that's not me. You know me, I donate as much as I make. So that's just part of what I do now. But when you look at these things, sometimes these motivations that we have can actually be bad motivations. So have you seen in the podcast, when you've heard someone, you say that motivation that he's doing or something, it's not good motivation. Have you ever seen that before?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, you're in San Diego, so you know who Billy Jin is, right? Billy
Yeah,
Jin is marketing. All right,
yeah,
so I mean, that guy flaunts all kinds of great stuff. He's driving around in his Lamborghinis. I'll be cruising
yeah,
down the 94, and I'll see him because I know he's on his way to the office. And I'll
yeah.
see that white Lamborghini pull up, you know, and like, right. But the motivation that he does is a little bit different. I think the problem with that is when you start giving up everything for this one shiny object, right? And on the one hand, if you think about it, I mean, earlier I was talking about the one thing. You really do have to focus on one thing. What is it that you want to achieve? But see, the goal of having that Lamborghini, that's not really what you're after. You might put it in front of you and say, this is what I'm going to earn. But the true test is, who do you have to become in order to get that, right? And so you have two ways to get there. You can get there by bringing people down, by knocking people over, by doing things illegally and scamming people, and you'll get to that marker if that's really what you want to get to. Or you can do it the other way, which is the ethical way, which is where you actually work hard for that money, where you become smarter, you become better, you become more, punctual at what you're doing, and you become a better entrepreneur overall. And then you will have that thing, and that thing means a lot more when you become the person who has earned it, who has earned the right to have that particular luxury. I like this guy on TikTok, and he walks around and all he does is ask people, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" as they come out of their fancy cars.
The car guy. Yeah, I follow that guy too. He cracks me up.
That guy's, but what's really cool is when you hear people, they first of all, they're caught off guard because that's not normally the question they get asked, right? But then they're like, "Oh, I'm in finance," or I'm in this, I'm in that, and you can almost tell with a lot of the people when it's somebody who it was given to and somebody who has earned it. Right? Like you can tell the humble, you can tell, right? And I think that is that's what I'm talking about, where you get distracted when it's given to you, it's worse because you're going to end up losing it. You don't know how to earn it. Once it's gone, whoever your sugar daddy, sugar mama is, once that's gone, you're in a worse position because you feel bad for even having tasted that fruit. Right? Now, but on the flip side, when you earn it, now all of a sudden, it's not about the Lamborghini. It's maybe like when you listen to actually what Billy Jean talks about and stuff like that, he talks about how he got the Lamborghini, he turns it into a great marketing piece and it works out in his favor. Same thing with Jeff Disher, who uses his Bentley banter. He does the same thing in his Bentley, right? He uses it to his tools. And yes, you can enjoy the fruits of life. That's what life is here to do. If I'm not knocking you for getting a Lamborghini or anything like that, all I'm saying is you need to become something else in order to achieve that. And I think that's where most people miss out, is that the actual work that it takes to become that person, it just doesn't come overnight.
Wait, see, and for me, like, I look at it this way. It's like, I have to be able to sleep at night, right? You can't do certain things that are unethical, because that thing comes to bite you in the ass, right? There was I forgot what movie it was. Have you ever seen a retired drug dealer? No, because they're all dead or in jail. They never retire, right? They don't know when to get out because they want the next big thing. They want to sell another thing. They want to do something else. Same thing could be used when people are doing something unethical. They want that next big toy. They want something else that's the driving force behind it is not a solid foundation. So when you don't have a solid foundation of what your drive is, it's always going to eventually come down and crash to a halt, right? So that's one of those things that I've always learned for myself, on my end, to just keep moving forward, keep, be able to sleep at night, make sure that you make your kids proud. So I know that with your kids,
watching over your back, dude.
Yeah. You don't want to be,
that's the worst, man. Like, it happens in business too, by the way. It's not just on the illegal side. Like, you can be shady in business and it's perfectly legal, but you'll get blacklisted. People won't want to work with you. And it's a small community. Like, it's not a super huge community in the entrepreneur space. You think everybody's there, but the ones that are the hitters, the real hitters, the guys who actually make things happen, that's a small group of people, and they all know each other. And they all know each other. So, once you screw somebody, now you're watching over your shoulder because you don't know where that next deal is going to come in. And that person, that group of people, they don't want you around, dude. Like, you're just toxic.
Well, and especially like for me in my industry, right? My industry, there's only so many agencies that actually do the big numbers in the life insurance game, right? So if you burn me and someone calls me and say, "Hey, do you know this person?" I'm like, "Yeah, don't do business with that person because that person owes me, $4,000 in chargebacks. Cut that dude. We cut him at the knees, right? Type of thing. That you burn yourself. You don't want to do that, right? So that's just crazy. Just do everything business ethically. You want to be successful, do business athlete, be able to sleep at night, right? Be able to kiss your mama on her forehead and tell her she's proud of you. She's proud of you. That's the one thing. So, it's crazy when that comes up. So I know we have a couple more minutes here, a couple seconds here before we finish off. Hernan, any final thoughts on what's going on? What's going to be next for you guys? What's going to be next for Business Brroooo? What's new? What's on the frontier?
Oh man. So next for us is I'm really starting to build a social media management company. Really, it's going to be helping people get in front of their customers on a regular basis. I mean, that's really what we're focusing our attention on, whether it's doing testimonials, because like you might not be that great at selling, but you know who's better than you? Your customers are. Yeah. They can sell you much better than you can ever sell yourself. So we're doing testimonials, we're doing content. So it's an interview. It's like this. We sit down, we have a conversation, we talk about something specific. Maybe you're a real estate agent. We talk about your listing process. It's going to take 20, 30 minutes to talk about how you present for your listings. And then we take that, we break it up, and we turn it into content for you for the entire month. So you don't disappear. Because here's really what it comes down to. There's 4 phases. You start off as invisible. Nobody knows who you are. And then all of a sudden you become visible if you're putting out content on a regular basis. And if you stay consistent, then you become credible. And then once you're credible, people know, like, and trust you. Then you will become profitable. So you're living in an age where the brand exists. You have a brand. You may not know what it is, and you may not like what other people say about you, but you have a brand. So you need to take control of that. Earn those 6 spots in Google. Put out that content, because that's where the future is going. These Gen Z kids, those are the kids. By the way, the Gen Zs, the oldest one right now is 25. Right? 25 is not young anymore. So this generation is the next wave. And if you're in financial services, I mean, you're in banking, you're in insurance, you're in life insurance, you're in real estate. Guess who's getting all this transfer of wealth coming over? It's these kids over here. They're gonna be pulling it out. And guess where they're gonna look for reviews on you?
Yep.
They're gonna look online. So online, you need to have that online presence. I know it's uncomfortable. We don't like it. I don't like turning on the camera. I don't know what to say, and that's cool, but you better figure it out quick, because business is shifting in that direction as per COVID. There's a whole reason why we can do video calls now. It's a normal thing. It's just part of what's happening. So embrace it or disappear.
And you're 100% right. We've been talking to that about to our agents. COVID. You have to be. Are you visible or invisible? Right. That's what we're talking to our agents. Because if you're not out there emailing your clients, talking to them on a monthly basis with their newsletter, just being in front of them, I guarantee you someone else is doing that. Whether they're doing sponsored ads on Facebook, whether they're doing Instagram, whether they're doing sponsored ads on the search engines, everything else, they're in front of your clients. So if you're not in front of your clients, someone else is speaking to them. So you need to be speaking their language. And like you said, if you're not doing this, you're a dinosaur, right? You're going to be extinct here real soon. So thank you, Hernan. I appreciate your time. Our time is up today. Like always, it's a pleasure. Thank you. If you guys want to check out Hernan and his podcast, the Business Brroooo podcast, there's always information on there. There's over 700, close to 700 episodes that you can learn something from. Trust me. If you think you know everything, you don't. That's the first thing you have to realize. You don't know everything. So check him out. Go like his videos on YouTube, follow him on social media. There's always something. I know every morning after his run, he posts something inspirational, and that might help you at certain days. One day you might listen to it and be like, that's what I needed to hear today. So that's what he's there for you guys. Once again, like I said, thank you, Hernan, for your time. Next week, we will actually not be having a As Saul Sees It podcast, because we actually will be traveling to Houston, and I don't think we're going to have great internet. So we're going to postpone it to the following week, but we're excited about this trip. It's finally time to go visit Houston and visit some family that my kids have never met. So you know how that is with extended families. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome
awkwardly
trip.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely awkwardly fun. And so we'll be seeing you guys in 2 weeks. Hernan, thank you once again for your time, and everyone have a great, blessed rest of your week. Take care. Perfect.